center of Georgia. This is 11Alive News Tonight.
This video today is a very significant one for Channel 11 because I hope some of their people will watch it. This is not a parody, but this is a very real issue regarding how their weathermen favor certain areas of Georgia when they do the newscast. As you know, when they do these telecasts, they're always using a green screen behind them so they can show the entire view of the weather. Now, what I hate when I see these newscasts and they do the weather is that where you live, they never talk about it. And it might have a massive storm. But see, if you don't live in Atlanta, which is the primary area they live, or they actually are serving, they skip over it. Now this is Chris Holcolm when he does the news or the weather. He'll say, well, up here around Rome we've got this massive storm and it's just really building here, and it's moving towards the north, towards Canton, or it's up towards, Rabun County, where you've got the state line with Tennessee. First of all, who cares what happens up in the mountains? Most of those people are now moving south of Atlanta. So first of all, you caring about what's going on up at the state line with Tennessee, who cares? Two, when they do happen to mention your area, and I live in central Georgia, that's south of Atlanta down towards, they do mention LaGrange. I live pretty close to LaGrange and in that general area. But it's kind of like, if there's a big massive storm right there, this is what Chris Holcolm does. Oh, down here near LaGrange we got this little storm. Okay, over here to the east towards Macon, and he kind of skips over that whole area. So when they're talking about your section of the state, it's like they might mention it and then all of a sudden they just skip it and go to the next one. So it's like for them, they don't care about any other areas except either Atlanta itself or north towards Tennessee. You know what I say? If you love north towards Tennessee, you should go to Tennessee. In other words, live there. Then let the people in the stations in Tennessee talk about that area where they're at the line with Georgia. Don't emphasize what the heck is happening up here in the mountains, because we don't live in the mountains. Most of the people that see Atlanta news are either in Atlanta, they're south towards Noonan, or they're over towards Fayetteville or Peachtree City. This is what Chris Holcolm does when he does the news. Oh yeah, there's a storm right here in Fayetteville, but let's go back up here into Athens and Rome. We got a big storm here, and it might be just this little minute storm happening. But Channel 11 doesn't give a flip about them being down in this area, like in central Georgia. It's like it might be a massive storm, red, yellow, whatever color it is on their Doppler radar. But they skip it, or they'll talk about it as little as possible and then go straight back up here to Gwinnett or to Stone Mountain, Athens, Rome, Canton, Conyers, every other place, even if there's nothing there. And they'll say, well, it doesn't look too bad, but let's emphasize this section here. And that's what they do on Channel 11 News, especially weather. And when Chris Holcolm mentions down towards the south, he'll say, we got some friends in LaGrange, so we got to talk about them for a minute. You can see this little storm here, and it's heading towards maybe Peachtree City, Noonan, and it's heading north, northeast. And I'm just real emphasizing, get them off the lake, West Point Lake, or any of those areas down LaGrange. You guys should get off the lake because that lightning's real bad. And that's as much as he'll talk about LaGrange. He might emphasize the fact there's a bad storm, but all of a sudden he'll say, yeah, that looks pretty bad, but up here around Conyers and up here in Athens, we got a really bad storm here, and that's all he'll talk about. Even if there's nothing there, he'll still talk about Atlanta, north towards Tennessee, and everywhere else. Or it's over here going into South Carolina. It's moving away from us, but hey, we still got to talk about South Carolina, or we got to talk about Macon. Macon's not even in their broadcast area. Because when you get down into Macon, they have their own television stations. So there's no reason to assume that Channel 11 is going to even reach to that part of the state. But again, this shows the screw up of how Channel 11 pushes and pushes about being hypocritical everywhere else except for where apparently they feel they have to have priority on their weather coverage. And that's either Tennessee, Atlanta, maybe we might mention LaGrange here, but everything else where there's bad, massive storms, he'll say, well, it's coming through here and it's heading east, and then he'll go back up here and he'll talk about something else, but he'll never mention about those areas where there's really, really serious weather going on, because in his book, they're out of our range, or they're not in our coverage area, so he'll skip over that and he won't talk about it. So this video today is basically to tell any viewer who watches Channel 11 with a fanatical idolizing, or that they just, it's like they just have to watch 11Alive news. And yeah, I am wearing their shirt. I'm saying this: if they can't be as fair for everything they're showing, instead of significantly pointing out certain places that they feel they have to talk about, then they shouldn't talk about anything. Chris Holcolm should be a computer. He ought to just basically be an animated character that comes on, and then a computer is basically, they're not one-sided or narrow-minded about what they're talking about. They'll be fair because they're going to have to talk about everything. Chris Holcolm doesn't do that. Neither even does Chelsea McNeil. He doesn't do that either. He's going to emphasize only Atlanta, East Point, College Park. He's going to maybe talk about Union City. He don't care about anything south of Atlanta, even though that's where most of your viewers are. 11Alive is down south of Atlanta, and y'all don't give a flip. And as a viewer, okay, I'm a viewer of 11Alive. I can tell you, when you guys skip your news as far as the weather areas where there's real bad weather happening, that turns off your audience. And you know what? We'll go to another station and watch, because we know other stations do this, but they don't specifically isolate certain areas that they're going to talk about. They're going to talk about everything. They're not going to just talk about Atlanta or Athens, Rome, Tennessee line up here in the mountains. Oh, the mountain's going to have some nice cool temperatures, but down here we're going to be at 100 degrees. And that's their philosophy. They don't care of who they're talking to. They only know that certain people are watching that must be giving them support by financially giving them money, or somehow they're tied in with the general manager of the station, and they're saying, you guys got to emphasize up here in Tennessee at the line because we're up in the mountains and we got to talk about that. And, you know, everything else, it doesn't matter. Nobody's watching you anyway. That's the attitude that they project on Channel 11. And I say this to Chris Holcolm: if you see this video, stop pointing out areas where somebody is giving you money, and start talking about everybody in this circle or in this box. Start talking about everything you see here, because they're viewers too. They may not give money, but if they don't watch your station, then you're going to lose viewers. Now, certainly I can tell you honestly that 11Alive is not the station it used to be, because now they let Brenda Wood run her mouth all the time about what she thinks should be the final word, because number one, she's black. Number two, because as a woman black reporter, she can do anything she wants to and the station will stand by her, even if it's hypocritical enough that enough people complain about it, like on Facebook or Twitter, and they say, you guys are idiots for letting her say what she has to say about this, that, the other. But they still let her do it. So I'd say Channel 11's lost a lot of viewers because they emphasize that it's not about openness or fairness. In other words, if you're a good journalist, you're going to be non-biased about what you're talking about. A good journalist is somebody who is they don't use one side of an issue. They give both. And it's objective journalism. That means both sides are given, and then it's up to the viewer to decide. That's not what happens in journalism anymore. Now it's about, well, we got this many thousands or millions of blacks watching, so we got to push towards their side of the view. And the whites, they aren't important anymore, so we drop their whole subject. And that's what they do on the news now. The news isn't more or less anymore about how do you feel? How do they feel? How does all of the subject relate to all the different races, because now it's opinionated. Now it's about one subject or one particular group, and everybody else's is just doesn't matter. So Channel 11, you guys really need to get your act together. You got to start looking at it from the perspective of who are you talking to when you talk on the news? Who are you offending? Do you care if you offend people? Are you biased if you're not racist because now you're pushing more or less towards the black opinion? The whites don't matter anymore. The whites don't matter because you figure, well, there's more blacks now and they're the ones that we have to target as far as how we project our views and our station's newscasts. Hey, if you don't want viewers, there's 4 other stations in Atlanta that people can watch. 2, 5, 46. You got all these other cable channels that people can watch. So if you don't care about your viewers, and it's obvious you don't, that's one reason why every time I tried, after TEGNA took over Gannett Broadcasting, who they used to own Channel 11, they cut out their email. So now you can't email them anymore. You know, it's like they can say what they want because they know nobody's going to be able to say anything to them as a result of it. It doesn't matter what you have as an opinion. If they don't want you saying anything to them, they just shut their email service off. And then this way, you can't project your views or your opinions. I've even gone to Channel 11's webpage on Facebook and I've left comments. 0 answers. Nothing. Channel 11 doesn't care about their viewers. And that's the point of this video, is to say, if you watch Channel 11 and you don't see how hypocritical and unobjective they are, non-objective about how they project their journalism as newscasters, then you only see what they want you to see. And any other opinion, it doesn't matter to you because you're already brainwashed enough to believe what really they're saying, which is, we're standing with Obama no matter what anybody else says. We're going to continue his propaganda of New World mentality, socialism. And Brenda Wood says that all the time. Through every one of her last word broadcasts at the end of the telecast, she will sit there and not vagrantly or flamboyantly blurt it out, but she brings up subjects in her discussion that makes very clear that she is a socialist just like Obama is. And what is a socialist? Is a communist. That's what a communist is. They're socialist. That's why he loves the Cubans. That is why he wants the Mexicans to be able to come here and get full amnesty. That is why Obama is just now being seen in world history as the greatest leader America has ever had. And in reality, he is the worst president we've ever had because he's been a tyrant. He's been a dictator. And now people don't even see the fact that Hillary Clinton wants to continue that same philosophy, that same administrative viewpoint about American politics and about America's future as a nation, that we have to be subjective and subversive to national socialism. And that's what Adolf Hitler was, folks. Adolf Hitler was a national socialist. And what did he do? He murdered millions upon millions of Jewish people. Obama may not be murdering people, but if he's brainwashing you, then he's got you converted over to his viewpoint too, without killing people yet. And who knows what Obama will do as far as his philosophy towards Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton studied just as much under Saul Alinsky as George Soros did as Obama himself. What is George Soros? He is the #1 advocate for the New World Order. He's the #1 advocate for the new global government system. And why do they have to have countries that are communistic in this so-called global government? Because if everybody's in the global government, then the global world order can control everything. And the communists had that viewpoint from day one. Control the world and you control everything that people have. And Channel 11 is an advocate of that whole thing.